What's up, alright? It's Michael or Penguinos007 here today for another TF2 reaction video. I'm here today with my good old buddy.
nither123.
And we're here today for How to Conquer Trolldier, part 2 of 3. By Soundsmith. Yes. So this is just continuation of the request from Pasta Dinner Theater, I believe.
Yep.
I remembered it off the top of my head. Yeah.
You look Italian.
And yeah, so we're here to continue this. I gotta get my wallet out of my pocket.
What?
Alright, let's begin.
Welcome back. For those of you who are out of the loop, this series of videos is all about how to fight and counter Trolldiers. You know, these guys.
I wish Soundsmith was my dad.
I don't know what an objective is.
I know a lot of people were upset and giving me shit for enabling people like this, so now I'm enabling them. The dudes who don't know how to fight them and are bitching about it on the internet. Now they've got no excuse. Anyway, this is the second part of a 3-part series, so I'd suggest you go and watch the first one beforehand. This video will focus on the WASD part of fighting Trolldiers. I think the best way to describe the big overarching concept...
But where's that hit detection, though?
It's
like what's the hit radius for the shovel?
Big fucking circle in front of you.
But like,
And
when does it detect it? Because it didn't even hit the thing, and it still killed it.
It's that it was the giant box on that sniper's head. As long as one frame or one pixel, my bad, connects, it hits. Okay.
Yeah.
But if there's a random like teammate scout in front of you, your melee hit your teammate also has a hook box, but you don't do damage to that hook box. But since it still has a hook box on your end, it will hit that hook box and not the fucking enemy. So you get absorbed, you know?
Yeah.
Melee is
The video is with another fighting game comparison. This video is basically covering neutral game. Now, neutral game is kind of an abstract, confusing thing to cover for people who don't already know what it is, so I'm going to put some resources in the description that you can watch to get a better idea of what I'm...
Wait, does it work when you're for jumping?
If you B-hop, that was a B-hop, so the game didn't think he was actually landing. Jumping does not work.
talking about.
Does it work if you're falling?
After a rocket jump, yes.
Well, I meant, like, say you jump off like a stack of boxes and then you hit somebody on the head.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to give a heavily simplified
Somebody in the
version.
comments let me know.
There are two big parts to fighting an opponent in a video game. The neutral game and the punish game. The last video we talked about shooting the Trolldier and which weapons do that the best through either their base stats or strange gimmicks. That's the punish game. Neutral game is the part before that. You know, when you're trying to get to that punish in the first place. Of course, I said last video that knockback from shooting them is instrumental in throwing them off and making them miss, but as you probably guessed, that isn't always going to be effective.
See, he just jumped.
No, you see how you launched with his rocket, and then he B-hopped.
Wait.
B-hop is like a flame public thing.
Throwing them off and making them
Because
miss.
Oh,
As
he
you
did.
probably guessed, that is
But he hit the ground and jumped.
That's a B-hop, he did that. A B-hop is like a source engine glitch, where you can actually, like, not in this game, but in other games, if you B-hop like left and right, like in Gmod, you know how you go super fast for some reason? Because the game doesn't actually think you hit a solid surface, but you're still able to jump because of the input. It's a frame perfect thing. And so the game didn't think he actually landed, hex extending his rocket
because they do that in CSGO.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you can do it in TF2 because it's all source engine things, right?
Yeah, you can be up. You can be up. I don't think you can speak in this.
Yeah, not in TF2, but in the source engine in general, I think you can. Like Half-Life 2 and Portal 2.
Half-Life Gmod, you can.
always going to be effective. If shooting them while they're approaching isn't an option, then you'll need to know how to properly utilize your
I think if I played Trolldier, maybe I'll do a video of me trying to do Trolldier.
You don't have the gun for it, do you?
Oh yeah, I need to get the gun.
I don't have either. We have to get the achievements to get it.
And then we need a... It's just us failing the entire time.
Yeah, some half achievements are walking up kills anyways.
Options,
and then
the ones that don't involve
weapons.
knockback, to get to an advantage state where you can punish. This involves 3 basic things: prediction, positioning, and movement.
PPM.
Understanding and anticipating what a Trolldier is about to do is key when fighting them. I'd go as far as saying that it's a prerequisite of sorts for the other two parts of this video. All the stuff about movement and positioning won't matter unless you're able to effectively predict what the Trolldier is gonna do. Otherwise, how are you gonna know what kind of movement to use or what spot to position yourself in? Okay, so first things first, observe the Trolldier and try to get a bead on his general playstyle. Usually they will fall into one of two categories, defensive or idiot meme lord. The former will play almost like a spy, being unexpected and only committing to something when they're confident they can secure a garden, and quickly retreating if—
Yeah, but who plays like that? That's not fun.
Real Trolldiers. Competitive Trolldiers.
Competitive Trolldier.
they miss. And the latter is—
I would have full respect if there was a competitive Trolldier
Lazy Pulper did.
in like the YouTuber match.
Yeah, not the YouTuber match. I think it was actually a competitive match, but he was with his YouTuber friends, remember? It was in the video.
I'm trying to remember, like I know there was like a match with frickin' Demo Knight TF2. Solar
I got the leg down. Yes, you failed.
What was that event with Solar Light when he was like going on rampages?
That was a YouTuber.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you meant like that.
well,
was actually
it's pretty
pretty
self-explanatory.
You okay, Patrick?
Nope.
Trolldiers who commit too often are usually the ones that are newer to the subclass. Unfortunately for them, this also makes them much more predictable. Basic movement jukes will usually be enough to throw them off, and they'll more often than not be doing the same jumps over and over for most of the game. Observe them for a few minutes, and you should be fine. Defensive Trolldiers, on the other hand, are a little bit more complicated. See, here's the thing. When you're fighting against a Trolldier that knows what he's doing, you're not the only one trying to predict their opponent. That's all Trolldier really is, trying to predict what your target will do and jumping such that you'll be able to take advantage of that prediction. So ultimately,
That's
you
how
have
you gain speed, is right there.
The tons, yep.
two parties both trying to figure out what the other one is going to do. And what this leads to is a battle of what's called conditioning. In a nutshell, conditioning is the act of establishing a pattern for your opponent to latch onto and take a risk trying to punish. When they do that, you can deviate from that pattern and gain an advantage. Here's a basic example that you might see in normal gameplay. A spy is giving this engineer trouble. Every time he attempts to chase him up a flight of stairs, he gets stair stabbed. Thing is, the engineer isn't stupid. He now sees this pattern, and that's not going to work on him more than a couple times. So the next time the spy shows up and runs away, he knows not to walk up the stairs. Instead, he waits at the bottom of the stairs so that when the spy tries a trick stab, he can shoot him in his stupid fucking French face. Unfortunately for him, the spy knows that he recognizes this pattern and figured out a few seconds ago that he won't be falling for a trick stab again. So in the end, the whole situation turns out looking more like this.
I know what you're here for.
Ambassador?
You're a bad guy. Here to
Trick stab.
me and my friends.
How do you figure that?
Why, you're smoking a cigarette, of course. Smoking is very bad. How much is Dio paying you to smoke, huh?
Well, a deal doesn't really work like that.
He's just all of this. He's gonna light him. You like remember the guy with the frickin' the incense and the frickin' hairdryer?
And just how do you plan on killing me?
Probably with my gun.
That gun?
This gun.
What are you gonna
I knew he was
shoot
gonna pull out
at?
Ambassador.
Dio's money.
That.
Bullets more
Always
likely.
watch me. Begging.
Did I throw a wrench into your plans?
When fighting Trolldiers specifically, conditioning usually has to do with establishing movement patterns so that the Trolldier will commit to a big old jump and obviously put himself in significant danger. Then, of course, you deviate from that pattern and punish. Here is a
That's a
practical
shoulder.
example that happened in an actual game.
Yeah.
I'm fighting this Trolldier, and throughout the game I establish that I stay out of his range by walking forward, walking off of ledges, etc. He understands this and knows that I know the basics of how to deal with Trolldiers. So when he's fixing to jump at me here, he opts not to do a jump into a wall jump to get more distance, and instead only uses one rocket, thinking that I'm going to react to his jump by walking forward. I mean, after all, this guy knows the basics of how to fight Trolldiers. There's no way he'd back up, right? Well, in this case, I did, because it's what he wasn't expecting. He misses, takes a shitload of fall damage, tries to run away to a health pack, and I just have to chip away at him to finish.
So, don't you take a lot of fall damage as Trolldier then?
Yes. At least you don't take self damage from rockets.
I mean, wait, isn't there an item that just nullifies fall damage?
Nope.
him off. Conditioning can also apply to things like aim, positioning, and weapon choice. For example, you could frequently show up at certain points in the map to bait out a large blind jump and then punish them for that. You could switch up your weapons to get him to commit to things he wouldn't normally commit to if he knew that you were using those weapons, etc., etc., etc. Prediction is important on both sides of the fight. Use it to your advantage.
He pulled out the shotgun.
One final note on conditioning. Like I said earlier, you're not the only one who can use it. Take care to recognize when somebody might be trying to bait you.
You got that, actually?
What?
You got that, Scout.
Yeah.
Alright, you guys already know what positioning is and why it's important. I'm gonna cut right to the chase. Here are some common things that you can use that are strong against Trolldiers. Now, obviously, I can't talk about every spot on every map, so I'm gonna do my best to be kind of general and explain why certain spots might be strong, so that you can take that and apply it to other maps. The first place that most people gravitate towards when fighting a Trolldier is inside a building. This is for good reason, too. The ceiling restricts movement and makes it harder to connect a garden, and there's less room to strafe and avoid your gun that's in their face and you're shooting them with. There's no doubt that against a newer Trolldier, a building is just about the safest place you can be. But buildings are a little bit of a double-edged sword. Your movement is also restricted, meaning if the Trolldier is moving with lots of horizontal momentum or knows how to b-hop, you're kind of screwed. Like, really screwed. Example, this guy right here, he's already dead. Pack it up, start the respawn timer, oh Mayawamo Shinderu, there's nothing he can do. At this point, assuming I hit the b-hop, he is dead. However, had he been camping over in this spawn, or
So is b-hopping just pressing space exactly right before you hit the ground?
Frame profile cube.
Spawn, he would have had more options to outstrafe me and punish me once I miss. For example, he could have done this. Or maybe he could have done this, right? Or he could have been over here and done this. Or maybe done this, right? You get the idea? So, when looking for places to be against a Trolldier, here are a few things to keep in mind. 1. Look for low ceilings. We already talked about this. It's harder to hit gardens in low-ceilinged areas because you have less options to jump. 2. You want lots of horizontal room. If you're in a choke point, all the Trolldier has to do is properly tie his shoes beforehand and you're fucking dead. 3. Hang around doorways. Don't get me wrong, ceilings are nice for screwing up a Trolldier, but this
Wait, is he just landing on their heads then?
What?
What was that part?
3. Hang around doorways. Options to jump. 2. You want lots of horizontal room. If you're in a choke point, all the Trolldier has to do is properly tie his shoes beforehand and you're fucking dead. 3. Hang around doorways. Don't get me wrong, ceilings are nice for screwing up a Trolldier, but this little bit right here is going to be your best friend. Any kind of random geometry sticking out from walls or ceilings will stop the Trolldier dead in his tracks, much better than anything you might be shooting at him. 4. Stay away from the tops of ramps. Remember, the Source engine still considers you to be blast jumping when you slide up a ramp, which means the Market Gardener will still crit. This means if you hang around ramps or stairs or other angled surfaces, you might get shoveled in a really dumb way. 5. Sharp turns and corners are good. Remember, a Trolldier can only strafe in so tight of a circle. Now, this one requires a little bit more foresight, but if you see him coming and can effectively predict what he's going to do, for example, this tower ramp slide on high tower, you can place yourself around a corner such that he won't be able to turn fast enough to get you. This could give you the opening you need to take him out. And 6, be wary of common montage jumps and where they might end. And when I say montage jumps, I mean stuff like this thing on high tower, or this one on upward, right? Or maybe this one on Badwater. You get the idea. Notably, watch out when you're around health packs. There are a lot of large blind jumps that you'll see in montages that end at health packs. Since a lot of people like to hang around there, and if you do a blind jump that ends at a health pack, you're more likely to run into somebody there, right? If you camp one too much, you might find yourself in a situation where it's too late to react. Like, by the time you notice the Trolldier, you're already screwed.
Damn!
Like, that one scene
Comes out like you like a freaking train.
Almost as fast as a demo.
In an Apocalypse Now, but instead of hearing Fortunate Son off in the distance, you hear the build-up to a royalty-free trap song.
What the hell? What is? Does anyone else on the server hear that? What? Oh, fuck.
Okay, you get the idea. Take these things into account when you think about the routes that you take and the places you camp when there's a Trolldier on the other team. There aren't very many places that are perfect, but as long as you're aware of any dangers there might be in a room, you'll be fine. Now, let's put this all together and talk about a room that I feel is very strong. On the second zone of PLR pipeline, there's a room at the top behind both spawns that has pretty much everything you're looking for. The ceiling, granted, is a bit high, but the different changes in elevation make it relatively inconsistent. There's a lot of room to move around, even in the enclosed subrooms. There are lots of door frames and a metric shitload of strange geometry that can screw up a jump. Notably, these fences, the tops of these door frames, this computer thing, this water pipe, and this AC vent. There are plenty of corners to take, 4 different exits, and it doesn't have any blind jumps that...
Wait, what was that?
Everything here sucks. For anyone that wants to fly.
Seems pretty perfect, right? Now wait, Soundsmith, I hear you saying. What about all the stairs in this room? Wouldn't the Trolldier be able to get weird slides and gardens here? Well, yes and no. There are stairs in this room, but none of them are placed such that you could gain enough speed to slide up it. Plus, these stairs are special. Here's the thing, most stairs in TF2 are actually just ramps with textures on them to make them look like stairs. This means that you can slide up them. These stairs, though, for whatever reason, actually have geometry, and that applies to every set of stairs in the room. And that means, even if you could get enough speed to slide up a ramp and keep your garden crit, you wouldn't be able to do it with these ones specifically. I don't know why. It's stupid, but it's a thing. So overall, if you're gonna take on a Trolldier, this is the kind of place you want to be. Okay, I would say that movement is the most important part of fighting a Trolldier, just hands down. Out of the things we talked about today, it has the most potential to save your ass in a pinch. You don't see the Trolldier coming, you're in a bad spot, what can you do at this point? If you've got solid movement, you've at least got a chance to outmaneuver him and kick him. So it's at this point in the video that I'd like to take some time to explain definitively
just
why
that switch.
You don't want to back up against a Trolldier. I know a lot of people know about it, but at this point it's mostly just a meme, and I feel like a lot of you don't know why it became such a meme. So let me explain. There are 2 basic reasons why backing up versus Trolldier is bad. It widens their margin of error for the timing on their swing, and it decreases the effectiveness of your horizontal strafing. The first reason is something that I've talked about before, but I don't feel like I did a very good job of explaining it, so let me try again. When a Trolldier is trying to hit you with a shovel, he has to swing with a certain timing, so that his hitbox comes out after he's in your melee range, but before he hits the ground. You could visualize this with an imaginary bubble that represents melee range around your target. In earlier episodes of How to Trolldier, I called this the butter zone. Now, as a Trolldier, you want to stay in this zone for as long as possible before you hit the ground. That way, if your timing is a little off, you're more likely to still connect with a crit. You'll notice that this is why Trolldiers like to jump low to the ground and favor a height disadvantage. It's because they stay in the butter zone for longer. Now, when a Trolldier is approaching you, if you back up, then you're allowing him to stay in the butter zone for longer. See? Thing is, if you were to walk forward, even if he managed to get in range in the first place, he'd be in there for significantly less time, making it more likely that he'd miss. Okay, secondly, backing up decreases the effectiveness of your horizontal strafing. Remember how I said Trolldier can only strafe in so tight of a circle?
If
you try to go tighter than that, it just kind of doesn't work. Well, let's take a bird's eye view for a second to visualize this. Let's say that this is the tightest a Trolldier can strafe. Obviously, this isn't exact, and it can change through the use of man treads and based on how fast he's going, but this is just a conceptual thing, so bear with me for a second. Now, the Trolldier could strafe in an arc that isn't as tight as this, say this, right? So if we take this original arc and mirror it to both sides, we get an area that the Trolldier could potentially strafe to. And as you'll notice, as you back up, that area gets wider. If you back up versus a Trolldier, you're basically going to the Prometheus school of running away from things. You could be strafing to the left or the right, but it likely wouldn't matter since he'd be able to follow you with his strafing. However, if you were to walk forward, then it'd be significantly easier to get to a place where he wouldn't be able to follow you. This would force him to either retreat or try to get the garden anyway, both of which would put you in an advantageous position. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, whatever. Just don't back up. Trust me. I mean, it can be useful at some points if they're not expecting it and you know they won't be able to reach you, but in general, it's just a really bad idea. Okay, so now let's talk about some more basic movement. In general, there are 3 different types of movement in TF2. Positional movement, jukes, and wildcards. There are probably some better names for that out there somewhere, honestly. I just couldn't find them, so this is what I'm going with. Positional movement is pretty straightforward. This is the movement that's used to put yourself in a better position to fight your opponent. An example of this in normal TF2 gameplay might be a scout jumping up on a rock to gain a height advantage against a soldier. A juke is a movement that's used to either throw off your opponent's aim or outright deceive them. A good example of this would be a matador stab. Oh, come on, I know you guys have all watched a trick stab tutorial once in your life. It's the thing where you move one way in order to make them think you're gonna try and circle around, and then move the other way in order to backstab them when they turn.
What?
You get it. Anyway, wild cards, aka
No screen, he was still going left. Not lag.
JoJo-style ass pulls are probably my favorite. It's basically when you do some crazy, dumb shit that makes absolutely no sense, but because of how unexpected it is, it just might work. The best example I can think of this is just randomly stopping.
Well, the reason why it worked was he was distracted by the other guys. There's like 3 other guys.
Yeah.
For no reason. Excuse me? What? Why? Why? Why did you just stop? You
Like
just
control.
stopped. That makes no sense.
Exactly.
Fuck you! Against Trolldier specifically, I would suggest that you place your focus on getting better at jukes, since throwing off prediction is what's going to screw with the Trolldier the most. I'm still going to go through and give some examples of every type though. For positional movement, here are some things that might work well. Strafing back and forth next to a doorway, walking off a ledge to change the required timing of their swing, jumping towards this window so that you have multiple escape options should the Trolldier chase you. Right? For jukes, try these. You could walk underneath the Trolldier at the last second. You could fake a walk underneath the Trolldier and then move the other way so that when he strafes and tries to follow you, he just misses. You could double jump as Scout to change your velocity and throw him off. You could change up your strafing to bait them into turning the wrong way. As for wild cards, it's difficult to explain a specific example because the whole point of it is being unexpected, and if I were to put it in this video, then it would no longer be unexpected, right? I mean, stopping can work in certain situations, and other dumb shit can work. You just gotta believe in the heart of the cards, honestly. Okay, really though, it probably won't work, but I mean, fuck it, it might, right? And with wild cards, that's really all that matters. One final note on movement, try to combine these in your normal play and make sure not to rely on one movement strategy too much. If the Trolldier sees it coming, he'll get you good. Remember, prediction and conditioning are prerequisites for using these. If you use them in a predictable manner, then none of this matters.
Just
決闘を侮辱するなジョジョ俺の前で決闘を侮辱するなジョジョ
So, there you have it. At this point, we've talked about basically
he's like, you can't hit me if I'm right under you. Pulls up man treads. Ah!
everything you can do against Trolldier, but the series isn't
a lot
quite
of
done yet. We've got one more video where I'm going to go over Trolldier's own capabilities and option selection. It's basically the part where we talk about any ass pulls that a Trolldier might have, and then take all the individual things we talked about in the first 2 parts and put them all together. I'll probably also give you some specific situations for practice, and then we'll be done. By the way, sorry for the delay between these videos. They're taking longer than I expected to make, so you can probably expect another delay between part 2 and part 3. But
Doesn't matter
anyway,
to
that's
us.
just about all I've got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Well, now we learn how to counter Trolldier. First, we need to learn how to play Trolldier.
Yes.
Once TF2 gets fixed.
Like that will happen. So.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching this video. If you like the video, do the hell you want. It's not up to me, it's up to you, and we will see you all next video. Remember, if you have a video you'd like us to react to, leave it down in the comments down below. And remember to watch the original video, support the original creator. This is always a good thing. He's nice.
Is good.
He's good, he's nice. And me and Nither will see you all in the next video. Bye!
Boy.